Alright, so let's start with the first category of nutrients. The first one, of course, the most important, water. So by age, you can see that adult males are 60%, adult female 55%, average of course, children 65, and a little child 75. So that's the, as you can see, that's the most important part of our body, water, and that's why we need to stay properly hydrated all day long, because if these numbers are dropping, it's our physiology is hugely impacted, negatively impacted, and we need the treatments. And you can see that with aging, we are currently losing a little bit of water in our body, and my colleagues from Nice Hospital, Xavier Buterne, did a study in 2009 showing that between 30 and 70 years old, for the same body weight, the loss was something like 6 liters, 50% of loss of water, comparing group of young adults to elderly people. So so from growth, from youth, when we are born, to our older ages, we are losing some body weight and some water in our body, and it's mostly linked to our muscle mass and our physiology. Why water is so important? Because it's the main component of cells. Every cell, to be efficient, should have a proper volume, and in order to maintain its exchanges from the intracellular to the extracellular system, we need water, and that's probably the most important reason. Of course, water is very important to deliver oxygen, because through blood we can deliver many things: oxygen, nutrients, removes carbon dioxide, and so on. It helps digestion, it helps to flush body waste, it's necessary for growth and reproduction, it helps to regulate temperature, which for sport is very important, because as human beings we have a very efficient system to regulate our temperature and to evacuate heat. And that is done through the sweating process. It helps to lubricate joints. So for aging athletes, it's water and being properly hydrated is so important to avoid joint injuries or joint problems, because tendons, for example, are efficient or healthy if they are properly hydrated. And it's good to know that water in our body also acts as a shock absorber, and through muscles, because muscles are mostly of water, composed of water. And I used to train lots of mountain bikers doing downhill racing, going high speed in the rocks, trees, and when you crash, if you have proper muscle mass, it will absorb the impact of crashes. So so for many sports like rugby, like mountain biking, like skiing, high speed sports, that compartment helps to protect our body, our organs. Let's go on the hydration assessment. The most efficient is to check urine, because the color of our urine is directly impacted by our hydration status. So from very clear to less clear to brown urine, we have different type of hydration. So when urine is very dark, probably we need medical treatment, because it means that our system is a lot less efficient, and we can be it can be deadly, because renal failure is very dangerous, and that's the first thing that happens when we are massively dehydrated. It's our renal system that is impacted, and it can go very quickly. So being properly hydrated before an event, during an event, during the recovery is so important. That's the most important thing for athletes, and it will change. It can change a lot your performance abilities during the competition, for example, or training session, and it will affect massively your recovery, because between being properly hydrated and and badly hydrated, it will change many things. So that's the most efficient way. Few information before, during, after, very quickly. So before an event, you should hydrate well throughout the day and the days before, because our body has the ability to store water, like we store glycogen, for example. So the 2-3 days before a competition, you should hydrate all day long, small quantities. Urine should be clear, and you should keep your bottle with you all day long in order to remind and that you are properly hydrated, because we tend to forget that we need to hydrate, and the sensation of being thirsty is often too late. So we have to, as athletes, we have to anticipate that, and as coaches, we have to remind all the time, drink. During an event, it's often too late when you are thirsty, but it's very strange if you're being hydrated and drink to thirst. I think there is a problem, but for sure, water with electrolytes is often more efficient to go through the bowel and to the blood. So that's why energy drinks, tablets, electrolytes added to water are often allow us to be quicker and faster hydrated, and of course flavor is also very important, because it helps to drink more often. And after the event, it is said that we should drink the 1.5 our body weight. So if you weigh yourself before training, you weigh yourself after training. If you have lost 1 kilo on the scale, you should drink 1.5. So that's a way to weighing yourself before, after every training session, every competition can help to rehydrate more efficiently and to check out the rehydration process. All right. That's the average rate. Something like 1.75 to 1 liter per hour, and you can go from very easy to digest drinks like water, fruit juice, to more complex products like milk, protein recovery drink, smoothie, but starting with water is a good thing. That was a study done in 2016 from famous scientist R.G. Morgan, and they assessed the potential rehydration effect of different type of foods, of drinks, and as you can see on this diagram, that so the little stars here shows that it's statistically more efficient. So oral rehydration solution. So this mix that you can do mixing powder with water is more efficient than still water, which is the control drink. And full fat mix, skim milk can also help a lot. And on the opposite, coffee, tea, beer have a lesser hydration efficiency than these products. So on my side, very specific, but after exercise, when it's hot, when you are tired, I like to start with water because that's what I want to drink, what I feel good for my body. Sparkling water, still water, and from that you can have a light energy drink, and from that a stronger energy drink like a smoothie with protein, with carbs, with fruits, and from that you can have a proper meal. But having a proper meal like a burger, for example, half an hour after a marathon, that's not the best thing to do, because your body needs to recover slowly, and there is a process. We will talk about that next course, because we will focus specifically on before, during and after exercise. All right, any question regarding water, hydration? It's fine? Yeah?
I've got one question, like after, say you lose a lot of water in your body, like after the training,
Yeah?
and then you want to recover maybe the following day, as most boxers or MMA do, they lose their weight,
Uh-huh.
using all kinds of methods to lose the weight, and then they want to recover. Is it wise to take a ladder before, so for your body to recover?
So
That
after training or before?
after training.
After training. In nutrition there is a famous quote that says that it's the dose that makes the poison. So if you have one beer, it's fine. If you have 10 beers, it's less good.
Like the small one.
A small one. Yeah.
They said it recovers.
Yeah, one is fine, but the problem with beers and alcohols after exercise is that it creates it increases dehydration, because alcohol makes you more dehydrated, because you are going to the bathroom and you need to pee, and so you evacuate more water because of alcohol. So that's why it's better in the few hours after training or after competition to avoid alcohol and focus on non-alcoholic drinks. And from that, in the evening, you can have one beer or one glass of wine. I think it's not a problem. If you have 10 beers or 10 glasses of wine, it can become a problem.
Runners do a lot of that. After running marathons, then they drink like beer. They do it. They say it helps them to recover.
Yeah.
And
Is
they do
it?
the carbohydrate thing, so they drink it and it's a carbohydrate.
Yeah.
So they've heard that, but they forget that alcohol dehydrates you. So it's a good excuse to have your beer. So we all make
Yeah, I think.
If it makes them dehydrated, doesn't it kind of like automatically force them to drink water after that?
Not really.
Not really.
Not
Yeah.
really.
More beer.
No, I think that the fact that beer is good for recovery is a belief. So and for sure, I say it again. If you have one beer, it's fine. If you have 10 beers, it's not good. So the quantity is very important.
I tend to drink
Tea?
after like marathon or something. Then I'll drink tea. After that, I'm more thirsty. I don't know, maybe it's in my head. I feel as if I don't drink tea, my body doesn't really absorb the
Yeah.
water.
No, tea is, you can see that tea is just in the middle, like still water. And I think, so it's quite the same, but the interesting fact with tea, especially green tea, is that it brings you lots of antioxidants. So it's good for your cells to drink green tea. Black tea is quite the same, but probably having a tea, it's fine. Having 5 liters of tea after a competition, maybe you should mix a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the second category of nutrients, carbohydrates. So we will do that category and then we will have a break. Be quiet. So carbohydrates are made of 3 different types of atoms, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. They are mostly found in plants. As we have played in Kahoot, 1 gram of carbs is allows us to produce 4 kilocalories and brings us 4 kilocalories. And glucose, which is the most important carb in our body, is the main fuel for brain and few other organs, and of course for muscle cells during aerobic exercise. It will help to produce lots of ATP. In the body, carbohydrates are stored as glycogen, which is the complex form of carbs, and is stored in the muscles and in liver. So we have a tank that allows us to store something like 4 to 500 grams of carbs in our body. So that's why we can't run fast or cycle fast for so long, because when we don't have any more glycogen in the tank, we need to rely on fat, and we have to reduce our speed because our system is built like that. So as endurance athletes, we need to preserve and to preserve those glycogen stores for the entire duration of the race. And for a marathon, for example, after 3 hours of running, you may have used all your glycogen, and for the last 10 Ks, you miss that energy to maintain your speed. That's why there is this famous wall in the marathon that occurs after, let's say, 3 hours of running, when there is no more glycogen and when fatigue is increasing a lot from dehydration, from the fact that there is no more glycogen, and from the pain in the joints and everything, hyperthermia and so on. It will help to produce lots of ATP. In the body, carbohydrates are stored as glycogen, which is the complex form of carbs, and is stored in the muscles and in liver. So we have a tank that allows us to store something like 4 to 500 grams of carbs in our body. So that's why we can't run fast or cycle fast for so long, because when we don't have any more glycogen in the tank, we need to rely on fat, and we have to reduce our speed because our system is built like that. So as endurance athletes, we need to preserve and to preserve those glycogen stores for the entire duration of the race. And for a marathon, for example, after 3 hours of running, you may have used all your glycogen, and for the last 10 Ks, you miss that energy to maintain your speed. That's why there is this famous wall in the marathon that occurs after, let's say, 3 hours of running, when there is no more glycogen and when fatigue is increasing a lot from dehydration, from from the fact that there is no more glycogen, and from the pain in the joints and everything, hyperthermia and so on. So when you talk about carbohydrates, it can be complex, and that's so you will be able to find it again on the replay, and if you need this diagram, I can send it to you. But there are different types of carbohydrates. The first one are the monosaccharides. The oligosaccharides is the second category, and the polysaccharides is the third one. So we go from very simple carbohydrates like glucose, which is the most important energy source for our brain, for example, and for our body, because our cells are only using glucose in the end. And from that we have more complex carbs like sucrose, which is the sugar, which is a mix of glucose and fructose, so it's a disaccharide. And we have lactose, we have maltose, that are disaccharides. And from that we go to polysaccharides, which are mostly found as glycogen in our muscles, or as starch in plant foods like potatoes, rice, and all these kind of carbs. Okay. As you can see, polysaccharides can also be used as structure in the crabs or beetle. Some insects, some animals are made of polysaccharides. So just to remind the complexity of the food we eat, and that's also why we need to tend to diversity, because from diversity we have all different types of foods that are very useful for our body. But mostly athletes need energy, and the best is to focus on those categories, and especially the starch, which is the best source of carbs for everyday use, training, recovery, and so on. Just to give you few information about the carbohydrate density of our foods. So that's diagram is about modern foods. So table sugar doesn't exist 1 century ago. Before we used honey, or we used fruits, but we didn't have, we cannot add a teaspoon of sugar in our daily food. Cereals, rice cake, pretzels, Oreos, all these foods are industrial foods, and they are pretty rich, because you can see that, for example, all these categories have more than 50 grams per 100 gram serving, 50 grams of carbs in their composition. And on the opposite, that's from Megan, hamburger is something like 28 grams. For 100 grams of hamburger, you have 28 grams of carbs, and the other is probably fat and proteins. And to compare traditional foods, which are more natural, sorry, it's very small, but for example, banana is hardly reaching 20 grams per 100 gram serving per serving. Apple is 12. Green beans are 5, olives 3, and so on. So you can see that plant foods, non-processed plant foods, have a complete different density. Complete different density, That has a huge impact on our physiology, because since World War II, food processing has changed a lot, and now we find much more processed food in our daily nutrition compared to, let's say, 200 centuries ago, where we were only relying on these traditional foods, which brought us much less carbs on a daily basis. Okay, so that was just to compare the different kind of foods, but for sure an athlete that is training a lot and needs lots of energy, and of course we can discuss and we will discuss the interest of keto diets and all these diets, but in my opinion, when you train a lot, daily, twice a day, you need carbs. And you need carbs to produce force, you need carbs to produce speed, and these categories like rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, grapes, cherries, fruits are bringing you probably the best type of carbs that you need for your training and for your recovery. And we will finish before doing a break with a very important notion, which is the glycemic index of carbs. So now it's a new concept which links the impact of what we eat on our blood glucose, which is glycemia. So as you can see on this simple graphic, with high glycemic index foods, high glycemic foods, let's say Coke, processed foods, we have a very quick and high peak in our blood glucose, and then from that it drops after an average of 1 hour. It can be faster, and you go below the average value, which is 100 milligram per deciliter. So and that's when the level drops under the average level. That's hypoglycemia. So you have hyperglycemia first, after eating a huge amount of Coke, for example, and then hypoglycemia. And your body does like this all the day, which is very hard, is a real stress for our body, especially pancreas, which produces insulin. But the whole body is impacted by this fluctuation in glycemia. And with lower glycemic foods, like cereals, like complex meals, we have a different curve, which is which is less undulating and doesn't drop under the average. So that's why also athletes or people that want to be healthy, prevent diabetes, is to focus on low index carbs. And on the right side of the TV, you can see the different type of foods, from high GI, glycemic index, like glucose, of course, which is the standard for the max, 100, to cornflakes, to crackers, and at the bottom you have fructose, which is the lower one. So glycemic index is this index has been built with isolated food. So you eat a specific amount, then we check how your blood sugar is responding, and from that, it's studies. We have this classification. But you have it's a lot more complex than that, because you have to consider that you never eat only watermelon or only rice crackers. It's often a mix of different type of foods, which leads to the concept of glycemic load, and we will discuss that in another course because it's quite complex. But just as a first information about carbs, we, as athletes, as coaches, we have to say and to transmit this information that athletes should mainly go to complex carbs that leads to low glycemic index. And on this graphic you can see the difference between glucose or simple potatoes like that compared, for example, to oatmeal or to lentils, which give a complete different response on regarding blood glucose. So, and the lower is the curve, the better it is regarding our blood glucose management and the stress on our body. You may have questions before we take a break.
So, what sort of stress would you be putting on your body with this? Like, do you want to be constantly at that, or because like that glucose curve is great for the last 10 Ks of a race when you're feeling terrible?
You have to consider two different situations. One situation is rest, no training, no exercise, and the other one is training or competing, doing intense exercise. That's two different moments, but most of the time you are resting. And each time you eat, you have a peak like that. You know, for example, if you eat glucose-rich food, like, I don't know, like a cake, like a sweet drink, soft drink, you have peaks like that, and it's undulating a lot. And each time you go up with which is called hyperglycemia, your body is it's a pro-inflammatory situation. So your vessels are struggling, and it's not good for your blood system, and that leads in the end, after years and years of this kind of nutrition, to diabetes. Okay, which is and one of the worst consequences of diabetes is vasculatory disease, because you have problems with your vessels. That's why everybody should tend to have lower curves, and having lower curves needs to focus on complex carbs and full meals, and avoid processed, refined, simple sugars, which leads to these huge peaks. So I was fortunate these last weeks. Unfortunately, I don't have one with me now, that we can use as athletes these blood sensors that gives you direct information on your blood sugar. It's called Super Sapiens, so on your iPhone you can have every minute your blood sugar level, and you can see, because we are all different, how your body responds to a specific food or a specific meal. And on my side, I've seen that, for example, during breakfast I eat tea with rice cakes with peanut butter, and I used to add some jam and honey, and that was leading to higher peaks. So I now skipped with honey, jam, and even fruit, to focus on more fat, more proteins, in order to lower that curves. And but everybody is different, but that's probably 20 years ago appeared heart rate monitors. Now we have a new type of sensors and blood glucose, continuous blood monitoring, CGM. Continuous glucose monitoring, CGM, is probably the new step. It's super complex because there are so many parameters involved. But if you want to lose weight, if you want to understand what's happening in your body when you eat specific food, it can be very interesting. We will discuss that because it will be in the advanced sport nutrition, because it's very complex, and when you start digging in these numbers, it can be difficult to interpret. So Hannele is the last lioness of the KPP because she has finished all the edition of the race. So currently it's actually it's 18. Yeah. And she's also South African mountain bike champion, and she's also triathlon world champion. So sport is part of her life for a very long time. very forever. And before giving us the micro, Hannele has invited Emmanuel to do the next KPP, so they will race together. And she's also the founder of this brand, Passion for Wholeness, and she will explain us quickly, 10 minutes max.
Oh, I had an hour prepared, but okay. Our speech. Thank you for the honor to be here as JB and to talk in your workshop, because I can't lie now because he's too clever. He will, when I do these talks, I can say a lot of things, and there's no doctors in nutrition, so they don't know that I'm lying. But no, for me, as JB said, nutrition is one of those three parts that's so important for our lives, and that's what inspired me to develop this range of products, because in my whole sporting life I found that always that was one of the most talked about things. It was one of the things I saw was most important in my performance, in training, because you can train very hard, you can have an amazing program, but if your nutrition is not correct, somewhere along the line it's going to catch up to you, whether it's in the race, whether it's getting sick, causing injuries. Very important. So and like the Epic too, by day 4 in the Epic they say the most sickness or problems they have with the riders coming to the medical tents are actually nutrition related, because they either overeat on the carbohydrates or they undereat or something, they don't hydrate correctly. So again, it's very important. So for me, and that's why my company is called Passion for Wholeness. It's a wholeness. So it's not just about nutrition. It's not just about training, but for me, the nutrition takes care of all of that. And JB is explaining all the scientific stuff around it. For me, I'm going to be talking a lot more simpler to introduce my products. Why I created this range is exactly what connects so well with what JB has said. It's not just about this one food, or it's about all three of the macro food nutrients, and that's your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. And from that you will anyway get your nutrients like your minerals and vitamins, because that's why we eat, to get that inside of us. And so for me, why I can say maybe something that stands out, or why I made my strap line, every ingredient has a reason in my products, is because what he talked about in your question about the sugars or the insulin spikes, it's such an overload of insulin that in the end it causes diabetes, because your body just can't cope with it. And how do we then eat more low glycemic for a longer sustained energy level? And that is by combining your food groups, because if you have a high glycemic carbohydrate that we need for energy again in the race, like you said, that last 10 Ks or something, but if you get a spike and it falls too quick, you're going to have another one and another one, so you're going to almost overload on those glycemic or high glycemic carbs. You lower a glycemic index by adding a protein to a carbohydrate. And by adding a protein, you're anyway adding a little bit of fat, because there's always some hidden fats in a protein. So when I developed, in each of the products, when I formulate it and mix it, it's with that in mind, to have a balanced meal. So when you eat it, it gives you a stable blood sugar level. So the glycemic index or the glycemic load is lower. So there's protein, carbs, and essential fats in each product, whether it's from a plant origin or animal origin. Mostly it's plants, of course, because it's there's 2 of them that contains whey protein from an animal origin, and I've got a collagen product too. But the others I've put together, and I've used nuts, I've used coconut, I've used seeds to bring in the fat and the protein. I've used whole rolled oats that's lower glycemic than a fast cooker oats or a high glycemic carb. So for me, the opportunity here is it's basically just to introduce you a little bit to my foods and to tell you why I would love you to support my products and not all the other people like the Future Lives and Mr. Jungle Oats and the Kellogg's, because I really care. I care about nutrition, and I have seen how it impacted my life. And if you eat correctly, you get away by eating less because of your blood sugar. That's and I'm not saying advocating to eat less, but if you eat less, you've got longer energy. The whole thing is to not have to eat too much when you train or when you race, but to have sustained energy and to create lean muscle mass by shedding weight by not having to eat. That's why diabetics have to eat so much, because they constantly have to push up their blood sugar. And unfortunately, that's the bad thing, but they can't get away with anything else anymore. So I've formulated the product on a few things. I wanted it to taste good, because normally, and now you get a lot of nice products, but before, when you saw a no gluten product or a very healthy product, it used to taste like nothing. But now they've been clever, and they've put, we are focused so much on no gluten, no this, no that, that we don't see all the other things they've added to make it taste good. And that's maybe not always the healthiest thing. All these E45s and D34s that you see on a label, that's all to enhance the flavors and thickness. I aspire to really use good, solid, whole foods. So when I put the product together, I get the proteins and the fats and the carbs from whole food sources. So when you eat a product, you get the 3 food groups. You can add, like he said, he adds the honey and the jam. It's actually then you're spiking the glycemic again. But I mean, it's not that if you need to add a little bit banana, but that's why I've put hopefully enough fat and protein that you don't overload again it with some sugars. And when you add yogurt or milk, again you're adding fats and proteins again. So it becomes like a good meal. I've also heard what people asked, and some people can't really eat very well before they train or race because they have digestion problems. They don't want to chew, they're too nervous, they just want something to drink. So they go to all these drinks again. And there's nothing wrong with it, but be careful, because marketing is a big thing in nutrition. So they tell you all of these energy drinks, but energy for what? Energy for a rave or energy for a marathon? I mean, to drink a Powerade or an Energate, in my eyes, definitely not energy for a sports discipline. It gives you quick energy to go to a disco dance or something. Not that I'll know, I don't know. But to get to take something, and I mean, I always say, first see if you can't do it with real food before you go to all these marketing things that's anyway costing you so much more. You know, they take a nougat and they tell you, oh, it's now all of a sudden it's an energy bar. And people buy nougat, those fast bars, by the tons, eat it. And if you really look at it, it's so much sugar you're putting in your body. And it's basically because they realize there's egg white in there, they realize there's nuts in there. That's the good thing in there, but all the rest is nonsense. Why not rather just take nuts and eat an egg for breakfast on a piece of toast or something? So that is why I say, before you just run off and get into all these energy things, look at real food. I've created some smoothies for people that wants to drink their breakfast, or you can use it as a recovery drink, especially those with the whey protein in it. I've made muesli because I like to chew and crunch, and I like to eat for a long time, not just drink my food. The pink muesli, like I said, every ingredient is a reason. There's beetroot in it that's got a lot of other nice health properties again. So every ingredient really has a reason. There's a vegan and gluten-free product. You are welcome to go on my website and wish me and Manu good luck for the epic. I hope that you shout for us. I'm very honored to be riding with her. And thanks again. I'm learning a lot.
Thanks
from what
again
you say.
for being
Thank you.
with us tonight, and I'm sure if you have questions you can ask Hannele after the presentation. So let's go on with the other nutrients. So Hannele talked about protein, their importance. So that's the third category. So they are made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, which is the big difference with the other categories like carbs and fats. They are found in plants and animals. There are, let's say, 20 essential amino acids which have mostly a structural role for cells, to produce hormones, to build things for our body. The muscle mass can be considered as a store of energy. For example, we can see with elderly people that have lost their muscle mass, they are weaker than people with a good muscle mass. So maintaining your muscle mass through your lifespan, is very important, especially after 70 years old. That's why having the proper intakes, having the proper training is so important to be healthy and of course to be efficient as a master athlete. And proteins can also provide energy to the muscles through this mechanism, which is neoglucogenesis, which is a mechanism that allows our body to produce glucose from amino acids. So it's a quite complex and long process, but mostly during ultra endurance events, more than 5, 10, 12, 20 hours, we also rely on this glucose production to be able to create ATP and to create muscle movement and to create power, speed. So that's why we can see more and more. It's a new field, but nutrition in ultra endurance events is a new field, and we learn more and more from competition, from science, and now we know that ultra endurance athletes need to have protein intake even during exercise. For shorter duration events like Cape Town Cycle Tour, like marathon, it's not really necessary to my knowledge, but for longer events it becomes necessary to both to prevent muscle loss, but also to promote neoglucogenesis. So you have few protein-rich sources on the right. So it's of course there are many others, but of course egg is one of the best energy source. Fish like tuna and so on. All the fish are good source of proteins. They are also very good source of essential fatty acids, and essential fatty acids. Milk products, beans, nuts, butter are all good source of proteins. Also vegetables like lentils, grains are good source of proteins, of vegetal proteins. So there are many different types, and yeah, you just have to find which is the more convenient, the more tasty, the more efficient for your body. They all have their advantage and disadvantage. We can discuss that. It's quite complex, but some people prefer to focus on vegan proteins like those found in beans and vegetables. Other ones are more on the paleo diet and more focused on meat and fish and so on. Yeah, the it's a real debate. But for sure, we need proteins to maintain our muscle mass and to have a good physiology. So the 10 most important amino acids are those ones. So those ones cannot be produced by our body, so we need them in our food to have a good physiology. So that's the 10 ones. Yeah. And for example, in eggs, we found all of them. Okay. In plants, not always. So that's why it's important to mix, to have the proper balance and proper nutrition. A few needs regarding age and the type of athletes. So sedentary adults, for sure, they don't exercise, so they don't really need lots of proteins. So it is said that they need something like a little bit less than 1 gram per kilo of body weight, so 0.8. For endurance athletes, it's increasing a little bit, and especially for ultra endurance athletes, and those ones should tend to 2 grams per kilo body weight. So if you are 70 kilos, it's 140 grams of pure protein per day. If you are training very intensely as an endurance athlete. When you are restricting your calorie intake in order to lose weight, to lose fat, it's important to increase a little bit, because it will prevent muscle mass loss, and it will also increase your metabolism, because protein requires a little bit more of energy to be processed through our bowel, through digestion. So people that are trying to lose weight, reducing their calorie intake, should increase a little bit protein intake, and reduce, of course, carbs mostly, and also a little bit fat, because fat are very energetic, but mostly carbs that are creating this undulation, and that may leads to this undulation that leads to insulin secretion, and I remind you that insulin, hormone secreted by pancreas, is the most important anabolic hormone, because insulin makes proteins, nutrients go inside the cells. Okay, and each time you eat high glycemic carbs, that leads to spikes in insulin each time. Okay. Okay, it seems not necessary to go above 2 grams per kilo per day, which is quite high, and sometimes bodybuilders tend to go higher, maybe rugby player, but that may lead to counter effects, side effects for renal system, for example, and all the excess amount will be evacuated through urine. So it's not necessary to overload your protein, to load too much with your protein intake, because it's not good for your body, and it will be money going in your urine. So especially all those supplements which are quite expensive. So just be in the range. That's good. Fourth category, fats. So fats are organic molecules made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, mostly found in plants and animals. So we can find fat everywhere, from nuts to butter, milk products, and meat, and so on. Fatty acids are very energetic, because 1 gram of fat brings us 9 kilocalories. So when you have a nutrition that is high in carbs and fat, on the long term, that will lead to fat storage and obesity in the end. But fats have also a role, a structural role with because they are involved in cells membranes. They are involved in many different hormones, like testosterone, for example, is made from fatty acids, and yeah, they are stored as fat in the body. So yeah, I forgot the term in English, but yeah, we may find fat everywhere in our body, in our brain, in our belly, under our skin. So, but all the excess is stored as fat because it's reserves for bad moments when we have no food daily. There are 3 types of fatty acids. So it's mostly chemistry, but saturated fat, which are found in mostly in animal fat-rich products like milk product, meat, for example. Monounsaturated fats that are mostly found in oils, grains. So olive oils, for example, is a good source of monounsaturated fat. And most important, because we may lack of these polyunsaturated fat, and especially the omega-3, you may have heard of them, which it's a specific category of fatty acid that is mostly found in grains and in fish products like salmon, like sardine. What's the term in English? Sardines. Okay. Mackerel, probably egg. Many cold water fishes are very rich in omega-3 because they eat plankton, and plankton is very rich in omega-3 acids. Yeah, so the balance between omega-6 and omega-3 should be 4:1. So but very often nutrition in our on the daily basis is too rich in omega-6, and omega-6 are pro-inflammatory fatty acids, while omega-3 are anti-inflammatory fatty acids. So it's the idea is to tend to this ratio 4:1, and but consider that we often are lacking of omega-3. We should try to eat every day those fatty acids, which have a very interesting benefits for the brain, for the blood system, and as I explained, they are anti-inflammatory. So they may help, and they may help to treat or to reduce all the diseases that are inflammatory disease. And as I said last week, all the diseases that are finishing by "is", like tendinitis, like sinusitis, like bronchitis, are inflammatory disease. And so making sure that you cover your needs for omega-3 may help on the long term to reduce this disease. So they are in the omega-3. There are 3 different molecules, which are called alpha-linoleic acid, which is the first one in the chain that you may find in the nuts, in seeds, as well as natural meat, not industrial meat. And you have also the other categories that are mostly found in salmon, sardines, mackerel, tuna, anchovies, and both are very important. They don't have exactly the same physiological effects, but definitely athletes should focus to have these foods on a daily basis. So important for you to be healthy, but also to be to have a good recovery and good adaptation from training and so on, and prevent injuries, prevent disease. That's the most important category to focus on. And you won't find these fatty acids in potato chips, in industrial foods, at KFC, at McDonald's. No, it's very low in omega-3. On the opposite, very high in omega-6, which is not so good. And in the end, I'm pretty sure that it leads to obesity and all the disease linked to obesity. Okay? To have too much omega-6 and not enough omega-3. All right, minerals, category number 5. So it's inorganic element that is found in soil and water, and in the end in plants and animals that eat and drink water and eat plants.
So,
yeah.
what is the balance between the omega-6 and the omega-3 in terms of?
It's 1 for 4. So you should eat 1 omega-3 for 4 omega-6.
Where do you get omega-6?
Hmm?
Where do you get omega-6?
Omega-6, it's very easy to find everywhere. So you have them in many, for example, industrial oils, like I don't have which kind of oils is rich in omega-6, Hannele? Do you know that?
Olive oil, all nut oil, avocado oil, coconut oil.
Yeah.
But can I ask a question? Isn't the ratio 4 omega-3 to 1 omega-6? Because the omega-6 is the bad one.
Yeah.
And omega-6 you get in almost all your animal products. We get it in from cheese, milk.
Yeah.
With the omega-3 you only get from things like avo, fatty fish.
Yeah. Yeah, but the omega-6 also have an energetic role. So it's in science says us nowadays that the proper balance is 4 omega-6 for 1 omega-3. Because if you eat too much omega-3, it's in nutrition it often leads to side effects or non-good things. So the on the average, it's you have to find this balance, and even for the average people, I guess the balance is 1 omega-3 for 10 or 12 or 20 omega-6. So the simple fact of increasing a little bit omega-3 and reducing a little bit omega-6 allow us to tend to this ratio. So I'm pretty sure that eating only omega-3 products may lead to side effects that are not very good. So it's a question of balance. Okay. Okay, minerals. So there are some key elements for cell function like magnesium, potassium, sodium, and we will discuss that because it's at the middle of the cell osmosis, and when you are exercising a lot, getting dehydrated, cell osmosis is very important. When you are exercising for a long time, training hard, you may have many issues from dehydration, from hyperthermia, from hypoglycemia, and many minerals are involved in those processes. So I just present you the most important categories, but we will discuss them deeper in the next courses. They are also very important to produce enzymes and hormones. So definitely there are major minerals like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium that are important, and other ones that are also important but in smaller quantities like iron, copper, zinc. And you reach them not with supplements, you reach the proper amount with a diversified food, with eating seeds, with eating grains, eating different kind of proteins, different kind of carbs, different kind of fruits and vegetables. That's the diversity that brings you all you need, because our bodies are so intelligent. They will only extract what they need, but the body needs to find those nutrients in the bowel during the digestion. If you only eat potatoes, you will probably miss many things. So the diversity leads to the efficiency. I quick focus on magnesium because it's a very important mineral for athletes. If you have a deficit in magnesium, you may have many issues like for your brain, headache, confusion, being nervous. Your muscles are more will probably have more problems like cramping, night cramping, spasm. Your heart system may have abnormalities, so spikes in the acceleration in your heart rate. So the magnesium is very, very important for cells, for body, and when you exercise a lot, you sweat a lot. When you do lots of competition, you have lots of stress. Our lifestyles nowadays with social networks, with communication, leads to stress, and every kind of stress leads to magnesium deficiency. So it's very important to be healthy, to be a good athlete, to make sure that you have a proper amount of magnesium in your food, which comes from chocolate, chocolates, nuts, grains.
Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate, 70% minimum. That's it. But we will talk again about magnesium because, for example, it's involved in muscle contraction so deeply that when you have one of the cause of cramping during exercise may be deficiency with magnesium deficiency. So that may be a great cause of cramping during exercise. There are many other ones, but regarding minerals, it may be one. And finally, vitamins. So it's organic elements found in soil and water. So in the end, in vegetables, fruits, mostly. There are hundreds of roles for vitamins, and you may remember that there are two types of vitamins. One that are found in lipids, in fats, which are the liposoluble vitamins, and the other one, hydrosoluble vitamins, which can be diluted in the water. So that's two main categories. And I will focus on all those vitamins that have a very important role in antioxidant function. So as human beings, we need oxygen every minute, and oxygen leads to oxidation, and to counter-effect this oxidation phenomenon, we need antioxidant in our food. And all the fruits and vegetables rich in vitamin C allow us to have a counter-effect to this oxidation process. Vitamin E that is found in fat mostly is also a great antioxidant product. Beta-carotene, selenium, zinc, copper are also involved in those mechanism that allows us to protect our cells, because oxidation is destroying our cells and the antioxidant process is protecting our cells. And the more we exercise, the more oxygen we use, and the more the more destruction we may create in our body. So that's very important to counter-effect that with nutrition. On the other side, calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, zinc are involved in bone structure and bone strength. Iron is very important for oxygen transport with red cells. So, for example, women that are often lacking and have a deficiency with iron, they are often they may have reduced performances because of low iron. So women athletes should focus on having a proper intake with their food to counteract their iron deficiency. That's it. So quite complex. I won't focus for too long time on vitamins, but definitely, like minerals, you will reach the target regarding vitamin intake through diversity. Supplements may be effective when you are very sick, when you need a real push, but on the long term, it's in my opinion less efficient than real food, proper food, because our body has been is so efficient to extract what he needs from real foods. That's why we like Hannele's brand, which only made with real foods. For next week, I would like you to, of course, if you haven't done it, quantify your 50 weekly different kind of food. But second homework, try to quantify your average sugar intake per day. So write down soft drinks, fruits, and try to write down also the quantity of each specific food. So if you eat 2 bananas, you got banana 2 that day. If you eat one Coke. If you eat 1 plate of pasta or rice, write it 1 plate. If you can weigh it, it's even better, because you can have a better idea of your carb intake on a weekly basis. All right, the question and answer. So we have a few minutes to answer your questions. So maybe you have ones. Maybe I can start with Sia's question. I'm not sure he's online, but Sia asked me. We have the belief in rugby that, hey Sia, your question. We have this belief that water makes you weak, especially for rugby players during training or high intense training. What is the impact of not giving water during high intense training? Okay, so it's definitely a belief, because 50 years ago it was said even during Tour de France, that Tour de France rider which was sweating a lot day after day in the mountains, cycling for hours, that it was not good to drink. So science improved a little bit the understanding of physiology, and definitely, whatever your level, whatever your age, you need to maintain a proper hydration status, because if your body is getting dehydrated, it may lead to many problems, from simple problems like muscle cramps to problem of concentration, to in the end renal failure. So getting dehydrated, especially here in Cape Town, where it can be very hot when training, you have to drink. You have to drink before, you have to drink during, you have to drink after every session, and it can be a huge improvement if you say your athletes that they need to drink all the time. That's maybe because I'm also the chairman of Le Cap Sportif, and we are helping the Busy Bees since 10 years. Maybe one good step would be to buy bottles, sport bottles for athletes with the Busy Bees logo, and provide them to the athletes so that they can go to the training session with their own bottles and drink it while training. And second part of the question, with the beer issue, they usually say beer has malt and it has impact on strength. How true is that? So malt, it's mostly a carb. So yes, it may bring energy. Sorry, but I'm not sure it brings strength. What will bring you strength is building more muscle mass, having more power, more speed, and for that you need to be properly hydrated. You need to have a balanced food, and you need to focus on training with weight to increase your muscle mass and so on. But I'm not sure beer will help a lot to achieve that qualities. So you may have one beer time to time after training or after victory, but definitely not during each training session or after every match. Drink a lot of beer because it brings you strength. So that's the dose. Remember that.
10 beers you think you're strong.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the mind. Other question?
Maybe on the hydration after training.
Yeah.
I remember from the chart there was water, skim milk, and whole milk. But I was surprised there was no beverage with an essential amino acid. Because milk and skim milk, they have more casein.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit more difficult to digest, whereas the essential amino acids are more easily digested.
That was a study made several years ago. Maybe science has changed a little bit, but for sure, the best recovery drink after exercising is a mix of carbs and amino acids. So it can be a preparation that you mix with water and brings you all these kind of nutrients. But it can also be very natural with mixing peanut butter with nuts, with banana, with water, with blueberries, and it's so you have to find your own solution which is good for you, because some will like or have issues to digest those kind of products. Some are vegan, some are keto. So just find your way, because in the end, nutrition should be individualized. That's the best option, and there is that doesn't exist one solution for everybody. But for sure, a mix of carbs and amino acids is probably the most efficient energy drink after exercise.
Oh, sorry. With getting strong I always feel strong afterwards, having red meat, like a steak or something, and that's also, I guess, controversial or different body types, because some people could just eat a vegan diet or chicken or fish or something and feel strong.
So what do you mean by feeling strong?
And maybe it's also just recovered. Yeah, recovered, or just mentally and physically.
But the nutrition is quite complex, and feeling strong, feeling recovered, it's a complex thing. You should find your way, what you like, what you think is good for you, what are your feelings, and your feelings are also greatly influenced by your digestion. And on my side, I think the way you digest food is changing through your life. When you are young, you are able to digest very easily those kind of food, and 20 years or 30 years later, it's different. So yeah, it's a process, and you should find your way. And in the end, if the foods are qualitative food, simple foods, produced naturally, in the end, your body will probably adapt to what you need. But for sure, if you have some kind of allergies to egg proteins, to gluten, it can be complex to find what's best for you. Lindsay?
Can you overhydrate?
Yes.
True. And it's a huge problem, for example, during marathons. Some people tend to overhydrate with plain water, and it may lead to a phenomenon which is called hyponatremia, and it's deadly. So there is a range of hydration which is probably between half a liter to 1 liter per hour for the average body weight. Under, you may be slightly dehydrated, and above, you may be overhydrated with this hyponatremia problem. And hyponatremia is a loss of, if I'm true, I'm not a specialist, but it's a loss of potassium from your cells. So you have a potassium loss from your cells that leads to many other problems. And it can be very quick, and every year many people die from overhydrating during marathons. So I have a very close friend which is working at World Athletics now. He's the senior doctor from World Athletics, and all year long he's traveling from marathon to marathons to teach and educate the medical staff to treat those people and to prevent those problems in those huge pelotons of runners who may have those kind of issues. Hyponatremia and hyperthermia. That's the two most dangerous things during a marathon. Yeah. Sorry, that marathon, I think about you. All right, allez, as we say in French, allez. One last question, and that's it. No? All right, so thanks again for attending this this lecture. We go on with the basics of soil nutrition. Next week we will discuss about more deeply with the hydration, cell homeostasis, hydration while exercising. So that's the idea for next week, to focus more on that very important thing. And in the end, the idea is to quantify your sweating rate and your hydration, your hydration need, your water needs during exercise. So of course, if we are fast, we will go on with the last part, which is before, during, and after exercise, which is the more applied part of the basics of sport nutrition. What you should eat before competition, what should you eat during a competition, if it's a rugby match, if it's a cycling competition, if it's a marathon, and of course after, because after often leads to recovery issues and adaptation, lack of adaptation, and so on. All right, thank you very much for attending, and see you next time.